Hey guys, I'm Steff and welcome back to my beauty stash. Today we are diving into, so excited, the brand new Natasha Denona Retro Eyeshadow Palette. I ordered this beauty during the pre-sale and it arrived a day before it launches. A day before it launches at Sephora. It is Thursday evening when I am sitting down to film this video, and I'm gonna try and get this video up tonight. So let's hurry up and just dive into the details about this palette. Now this palette contains several different formulas, and I'm gonna put a picture up here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. The first formula is the cream to powder shadows, and there are 5 of those in this particular palette. Now out of the palettes that I have, none of them have 5 cream to powder shadows. I've usually seen just maybe 1, 2, 3 at the most, but this one is giving us 5. There are also 2 special shades, one duochrome and then one topper shade. And then the rest of the palette is a nice mixture of mattes, shimmers, and metallic finishes. There are 15 shades total in this palette and it retails for $65. Now you can find this already on the Natasha Denona website, and there are different pack-ups available with this palette. So I decided to get the pack-up that includes the mini retro palette because I didn't have the mini retro palette in my stash. And I think for both I paid $74 or $75. These mini palettes on their own retail for $25 and the eyeshadow palette on its own is $65. So it was a nice little savings there, and I definitely wanted to pick this up so that we can compare it. I have already swatched both of these palettes, and I will definitely insert those swatches that I did both indoors and outdoors so you can see what they're going to look like on a fair to light skin tone. But let me just hold these up really quick, one on top of each other, because I noticed that there are definitely some differences. I mean, very few similarities. Definitely we're not seeing any of the greens represented in the retro palette. It's more along the lines of like these shades right here. I think you can clearly see that those shades are represented in the retro palette. But let's start playing with this palette, guys. I am going to be creating 2 looks for you guys, and I'm also going to be sharing with you my thoughts, my review at the end of the video, and of course giving you guys some dupes, some alternatives for this palette in case the $65, which totally understandable, is not in your budget at the moment. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek of my dupes and alternatives. When I first saw this palette debut on Instagram, I thought, that's the Melt She's in Parties palette, and I've been wanting that palette for so long. I've never gotten around to purchasing it, but I thought this would take the place of not having that particular palette. So let me know your thoughts on that. Another thing I want to mention about just the overall packaging, this is that nice sturdy plastic, and this is the mid-size palette, so there is one larger, the Circle Loco, the Trio Chrome, those are the larger palettes. And then of course you can pop out the shades, rearrange them, put them in your own magnetic palette if you want, and of course you do get a full-size mirror with this. And it says it's good for 24 months after opening. Alright guys, enough talking. Let's dive into this new Natasha Denona Retro palette. First I'm going to show you swatches, and then we'll start creating look number 1. If you guys want to see the new retro palette in action, keep on watching. I've already primed my eyelids using the new Natasha Denona. This is the Work and Set eyeliner. It is a cream eyeliner, and this is in the shade Nude. This was released alongside the new mini Xenon palette, and I picked this up from the Natasha Denona website. And guys, rephr, which you're gonna see me use a lot of rephr brushes in today's video, they're having an amazing sale, 40% off site-wide. Everything is going to be in the concept store. I will have it linked in the description box of my video. It is an affiliate link, so if you do end up purchasing, I thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. But guys, if you've been wanting rephr brushes, take advantage of the sale. It begins Friday, September 3rd, and it ends on September the 10th. And the reason for this major sale is that they are now accepting more currencies, like from Canada, from Europe, from Great Britain. Everything will be in the description box of this video in case you want to check out that sale, which I highly recommend that you do. So I'm going to be using the rephr 16 brush, and I'm going to go in, let's see, I'm going to start first with this shade right here. And this is going to be a cream to powder shade. This one is called Andy. And I'm going to start working that in the crease. I think that this is such a pretty color story. Like, I had no hesitations deciding whether I wanted to buy this palette or not. I really do enjoy the Natasha Denona shadow formula, her quality. I've rarely encountered any issues with her shadows. They are definitely pretty consistent across the board. Even like with the mini palettes, just because they're $25, that is the least expensive in her range, doesn't mean she sacrifices quality. I mean, they are the same pigmented, easy to blend shadows that are in this mid-size palette and of course the larger palettes. Those larger palettes, they retail for, was it $125, something like that? They're definitely a steeper price point, but if you got the money and you want to spend, I'd highly recommend checking them out. So this is blending out really well, really well. I don't always want to say that the cream to powder is my favorite formula to work with, but I'm having zero issues with this shade. It is exactly as it appears in the pan, and it's actually building up. I'm able to deepen up the crease with it, which I like, and it's really easy to blend out. So far so good with this cream to powder formula and this first shade in the retro palette. Now I'm gonna go in with this shade right here. This is a matte shade and it is called Amorosa. I'm gonna be focusing that on the crease, also placing it on the outer corner. That's nice. Those two shades are blending into one another perfectly. Ooh, that's nice. A nice little smoky, berry toned eye. Love it. I love this color story. You'll hear me say that several times. I think this is what I was looking for fall. This and that Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. Guys, sign up for the email notification when it comes back in stock, because that is a beautiful palette and it's only $15. Love that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shade. Now I'm going to go in with another cream to powder shade, and this one is called Rebellion, and I'm going to be focusing that primarily on the outer corner and ever so slightly in the crease. I'm using the same rephr 14 brush. You could use a flat brush though if you wanted to, just because it is a cream to powder, but this brush seems to be blending it out just fine. All right, now I want to go into this duochrome shade. This is the only duochrome shade in the palette and it's called Glitz. I'm gonna pick it up with my finger. And I'm just gonna apply it right here to this empty space on the lid. Ooh, that's pretty. Now I am going to go in with a damp brush. I'm just wanting to see what kind of payoff we get with a finger application. Okay, so I'm taking a Morphe M124 and I'm going to spray it with some setting spray. I'm just going to go over this area. Now I'm going back in with Rebellion, which was that last cream to powder shade I used, the darkest shade. Now I'm going in with Amorosa, which was that matte shade. And finally, I'm going to go back in with Andy, which was our very first shade. I like that. That looks really good. And that was really easy. Like the blend was very easy. Now for the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with Go Go. I'm going to do that first, and then I think I'm going to deepen it up with Swing. This is a cream to powder shade. I'm going to take that on a rephr 26. It's a dry brush. This is actually one of my favorite rephr brushes because it has a nice point, but it's not that small to where you can't blend in larger spaces. Like you can just do a little bit of everything with this brush. You can use it wet if you want to wet it, which I sometimes do. You can use it to just pop an inner corner highlight, line, shade. I mean, I use it a lot on my lower lash line and on the inner corner, but this I could have used for that dark shade, which was Rebellion. Like I could have used this for that cream to powder, which I'm using a cream to powder shadow right now with it, and it's working fine. You'll notice I'm bringing the shadow down ever so slightly. Yeah, these cream to powder shades, I'm liking them. Sometimes they make me nervous. Sometimes I feel like they take a little bit of extra blending, but the ones I've been using, I think I've already used, what, 3 or 4 of them? They've all been fine. Now I'm going to go in with this shimmer shade right here. This one is called Swing. And I'm going to be focusing that a little bit closer to the lower lash line. And I am going to spray it. Same rephr 26 brush. Now I did get a little bit of fallout with that duochrome shade, and it was when I was applying it with my finger. But I haven't gotten any fallout with the other shade. Now I'm going to go in with a damp rephr 03. And I guess I'm going to go back into our duochrome shade. I'm going to go back in with Glitz, and that's going to be the inner corner highlight. I'm going to spray it. I'm going to clean off that rephr 03 brush, and I'm going to go in with this shade right here. This is called Maud, and that's going to be the brow bone highlight. All right, guys, so far, I'm loving this. Great first experience. Let me pop on some falsies. I feel like doing falsies today, and some liner, and I'll be right back to show you all the completed look. All right, guys, so this is look number 1 with the retro palette. What do you guys think? This is exactly the look I was wanting to create when I saw the color story of this palette. I added some iconic light lashes, and of course I went in with my favorite black liquid liner, the Wet n Wild Breakup Proof liquid liner. And for mascara, I'm using this one from Essence. Hadn't used this one in a while. This one is called High Beauty. This is a vegan volume mascara. And then for the lower waterline, I went in with this one from Natasha Denona. This was also part of that mini Xenon collection, and this is just a pencil liner. This one is in the shade Burgundy, and that's what I have on the lower waterline. Perfect complement, this liner with this entire palette, with this look. In case you want to pick it up, you can find this at Sephora, so I will definitely have it linked in the description box of this video, as will I have linked the rest of the makeup that I'm using both on and off camera. So let's jump over to the left eye and start creating look number 2. So for look number 2, I kind of want to focus like on these shades right here and maybe this one as well. So I think I'm going to start off with Nude Mauve in the crease and then we'll take it from there. And I'm taking that shade on a rephr 27. Also on the Natasha Denona website, she has this palette bundled with the Glam Palette. The Glam Palette was released last year. It is a very cool toned neutral palette. It's a beautiful palette. So if you were wanting to pick them both up, they both individually retail for $65, but I want to say the bundle price is $110. It's like actually a really good deal. And if you're just starting your journey with Natasha Denona shadows, I mean, this would be a killer combination to pick up, the retro and the glam. Shade wise, I mean, yeah, those would be beautiful complements to one another. This is just a nice, cool toned shade. At least I think it's cool toned. Kind of looks cool toned to me. Sometimes I can't tell, guys. Am I the only one that has trouble telling with certain shades whether they lean more cool or warm? I feel that way sometimes. Now this is just a regular matte shade. It is not one of those cream to powder, but as you can see, I'm really building it up and it's building up just fine. It's blending out perfectly fine, no issues. Now I'm going to go in with another cream to powder shade, and this one is called Apart, and I'm going to be focusing that in the crease and also on the outer corner. And I'm using a rephr 14. This is also one of my favorite rephr brushes just because it's so reliable and it can do just about anything. It's really great for crease work, outer corner, inner corner, just an all-around nice blending brush. And I'm having no issues blending these cream to powder shades with it. Bringing that shade in a little bit farther on the lid, almost halfway. Now I want to go in, let's see, I think I'm going to go in with this shade right here. This is Hilo. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of Jude in there as well. I'm going to take Hilo on a rephr 02 and I am going to spray the brush. Both of these shades are going to be just regular shimmer shades. I'm going to start placing Hilo right here. These tones kind of remind me of what you would find in the Glam Palette. Very similar. So that's why obviously she bundled them together because they are really nice complements. And I'll show you that palette next to this when I get into the alternatives. So you can see if you got that one, how it would match up with this one. Okay, now I'm going to go in with Jude. Same brush, I'm just flipping it around. And I'm going to spray it right in here in the inner corner. Now I'm going back in with Hilo. Now I'm going back in with that cream to powder shade called Apart. Just to blend everything together. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, now what do we want to do for the lower lash line? I kind of wanted just to keep it like really cool toned. I didn't want to do so much of a berry look since this is what I did on this eye. I think I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go back in with Nude Mauve and then do Apart just to kind of keep it cohesive with these other cool toned shades. So let me start first with Nude Mauve. And I'm taking Nude Mauve on a rephr 26, going back in with that one, dragging it down some as well to kind of really smoke out that lower lash line. Now right here, I always miss that little spot. I'm gonna pick up some of the shade Apart and add it right there. I always miss, and it's only in this eye. I miss that little part to connect them. Now I'm getting some more of Apart on the same rephr 26. And I'm gonna run that closer to the lash line. Now I'm gonna pick up a little bit. I wanted to use this shade and we haven't used it yet. This is the topper shade. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of Psychedelic with my finger. And that's what it looks like. I'm gonna apply it to the center. I'm gonna try a damp brush. Now I'm gonna take some of that same shade on a rephr 03. And I'm going to spray it, and that's going to be our inner corner highlight. Now for the brow highlight, I'm going to go in with the shade Vivian right here. And that is also a cream to powder shade. So that means we've officially used all of them. I'm just using the same rephr 03. All right, guys, let me pop on the other falsie, more mascara, some liner, and I'll be right back to show you all the completed look. All right, guys, so this is the completed look number 2. I added, of course, the other House of Lashes iconic light lash. I went in with some black eyeliner on the lower waterline. This is the LA Girl Shockwave liner. I love these. These are some of my favorite at the drugstore. So many colors. They're all fantastic. I went in with more of the Wet n Wild Breakup Proof liquid eyeliner on the top lash line. We got hopefully 2 even wings on both eyes, but I really love the way this look came out. This is, for me, very reminiscent of the Glam palette from last year, and this is just really pretty. Just a little bit more of a mauve-y tone to it than what you would get in the Glam palette. All right, guys, so let me give you all my final thoughts, my review on this retro palette, as well as show you guys some dupes and alternatives that you might already have in your stash. All right, guys, so clearly I enjoyed working with the retro palette. I encountered 0 issues, especially with the cream to powder shades, and I used all 5 of them. No issues whatsoever. I got minimal fallout. The only fallout I got was mainly on this eye when I was going in with my finger with the duochrome shade. I did get a little bit on this eye when I was using the topper shade. Other than that, the matte shades, the other shimmer shades, metallic shades, everything was seamless. Everything was perfect. A beautiful blend and a beautiful color story. This is just one of those color stories that it's not unique, okay? We definitely have these shades already, but there's just something about this palette that just instantly caught my attention. I was like, I need to have that palette. I want that palette in my stash. It's just so, so pretty. Now we're gonna get to the comparison portion of this video in a second, but just judging this palette on its own, I think it is a beautifully cohesive color story. I think this is a beautiful fall to winter palette, but it is also a spring to summer palette because you have these lighter shades over here. Very versatile palette. Please don't reserve it for 1 season or 2 seasons out of the year. Use it year round. Personally, guys, I prefer this price point, this $65 price point, and of course the $25 price point. I have the mini Xenon palette, which I've been referencing in this video. Guys, for me, like, this is the perfect price point. Even when I didn't have a YouTube channel, this is pretty much the price, the top of the price range where I would go. I know it's a little difficult to spend over $100 on an eyeshadow palette. Completely understand that. Probably wouldn't pay that myself if I didn't have this YouTube channel, but I do, so that's why I pay, so I can try. But I think this is a comfortable high-end price point for a nice quality eyeshadow palette. And I love that she gives us these mid-size palettes. This is my favorite size of all the palettes. Well, I do like the minis too, but to get more of a variety and stuff, I love these mid-size palettes. This is definitely one worth owning. It's definitely one worth checking out. This is gonna pair so beautifully with the Glam palette, with the Love palette, and of course the mini retro palette, which I cannot create a look using both of these. I haven't even used this palette. I bought the little bundle option, you know, like I told you that she has available on her website. But this is just a beautifully well-performing eyeshadow palette. If you want to give this as a gift to somebody, maybe this is going to be a to me from me gift. It is absolutely a beautiful palette worth having in your stash. I did want to mention there is some kick up in the pan with pretty much all of the shades, and you can kind of see it right here on some of the matte shades and the cream to powder shades. That never has bothered me, but if it bothers you, I'm just letting you know. But yeah, this one in my book, guys, it's a winner. It's going to get 2 thumbs up from me. I love the color story. I love the 2 looks that I was able to create for you guys. Now let's talk about dupes and alternatives. All right, guys, so I want to mention the Natasha Denona Love palette. This is definitely a more pink-leaning palette, but I'm mentioning it first because I just saw on the Sephora website that it's on sale for $32.50. Run, don't walk on that one because that is a fabulous price for this palette. I think I'm actually going to order it because I don't have this one in my stash, but you can see that that's definitely more pink leaning. And let me hold up retro over here. This is definitely more wine tone leaning, a little bit cooler tone leaning. So there you can see the difference. Wanted to mention that one first. And then the other palette I want to mention is the one I was telling you earlier. This is the Glam palette. This was the one from last year, very cool toned neutral palette. And here they are, one on top of each other. You can clearly see how beautiful of complements these would make for one another. And again, you can buy them as a bundle. I think it's $110. I will have it linked in the description box of this video so that you guys can check that out. ABH Modern Renaissance palette, which I think we all have this in our stash. And it's probably not the newest of palettes in our stash. That's because this has been around for quite some time. I do feel that this is definitely more of a warm tone palette. And let me just hold them up here so that you guys can take a look at these color stories. There are some definite similarities in here, but I do think you get more pink in the ABH and a little bit more warm tones than you do with the retro palette. Now, also one from last year is the Naughty palette from Huda Beauty. I also think this is kind of similar, but I think that these are definitely more warm tones. So let me hold them up next to each other so you guys can make your own comparisons there. I think they're similar. There's definitely a lot of different formulas up here in the Huda, as there is in the Natasha Denona palette, and they're both around the same price point. You are going to get more shades in the Huda. You get 3 more shades than you do in the Natasha Denona, but I do think this one leans a little bit more warm tone than the Natasha Denona one does. Next, I pulled these 2 mini palettes from Juvia's Place. This first one is the Mauves palette, and let me just hold that up with the retro palette. Very similar. These little mini palettes, I think they're $12 or $15, but you can always find them on sale too on the Juvia's Place website and sometimes on the Ulta Beauty website. And then the other palette I pulled from Juvia's is the Berries palette. This one definitely has more pink in it than the retro palette does. But again, affordable options and things that you might already have in your stash to where you wouldn't feel it necessary to buy the retro palette. And then one that I just thought of. I just remembered this one when I went to go grab these other palettes. This is the Dominique Cosmetics Berries and Cream palette. I've had this in my stash for quite a while and I really enjoy it. Obviously, this has that fun pop of blue. It also has a somewhat matte black in it. I think it's a little more charcoal leaning than black, but here they are. So you guys can definitely see the similarities there, of course, minus the blue and black. This Berries and Cream, I want to say it retails for like $42 or $45. I believe you can still find that on the Sephora website. And then of course I had to pull out the Wild Heart palette from Wet n Wild. Oh, this palette is just too much, but it's really good. It's really worth checking out. It's 20 bucks, $19.99. I think you can even find it for like 16 or 17 bucks. I got this from the Ulta Beauty website, but definitely this area right here is the area that I would focus on when comparing to the retro palette. There you can kind of see some little similarities there. I mean, this is just a more affordable option, and you can create similar looks with the Wet n Wild that you could create with the Natasha Denona. Now keep in mind, guys, I'm not duping formula. I'm not duping her formula. She has a very special formula, and not that these other palettes that I'm showing you guys have bad formulas. They have good formulas, or I wouldn't be really showing them to you guys. But some of them don't have like that cream to powder formula, or obviously like duochromes in there. The next one I pulled from my stash is the latest ABH Norvina palette. This is volume 4. I love these palettes. These palettes are amazing. I know they're on the larger side, but they're really good palettes. And this is a $60 eyeshadow palette. Get 25 shades in here. Now this is definitely more purple leaning than the Natasha Denona, but there are some slight similarities in here to where if you had this one, you might not feel the need to get the Natasha Denona. Although, I don't know, this is a really nice palette to have in your stash, and you can definitely see that there are some major differences between the two. All right, guys, so that wraps up today's video showcasing the new retro palette from Natasha Denona. Definitely let me know your thoughts. What did you think of this color story? What do you think of the price point of these mid-size palettes? Definitely leave it in the comments down below, and let me know if this is going on your wish list, or maybe it already landed at your doorstep. I want to thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. You all have a great day or night wherever it is you all are at. Stay hydrated, guys. Drink your water. Cheers. And I will see you all very soon. Bye.